What's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Make your next thing a big one or a creepy one. Oh my goodness. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Oh, today on the program, since it's Halloween, I want to take you to the Halloween season and maybe get some historical facts, relating to Halloween. And here's a historical fact just for you. Because I read a single article and become an expert. Trick-or-treating dates back to medieval times. Trick-or-treating dates back to medieval times. Halloween has its roots in an ancient Celtic festival called Samhain, which was celebrated around October 31st, when the veil between earthly humans and the supernatural world was believed too thin. Yes, Celts believed this connection with the other world meant the dead could return, but dangerous spirits could too. They wore costumes to protect themselves from malevolent forces that crossed over so they could blend in with spirits, monsters, fairies, and demons, and thus escape harm. When Christianity spread to the British Isles, people began to reframe pagan traditions. Between the 5th and 11th centuries, November 1st was observed as a celebration of saints and martyrs, dubbed All Saints' Day, and the following day, All Souls' Day, commemorated the dead. Celebrations, which involved large bonfires and costumes, looked a lot like Samhain. During these festivals, collectively known as Hallowtide, less fortunate people would go souling door to door, reciting rhymes and asking the wealthy for pastries called soul cakes in exchange for prayers for their loved ones. References to this kind of practice date back to the 14th century, and while the tradition died out in Protestant areas, it survived in Catholic communities in Ireland and Scotland during the 18th and 19th centuries. Children went guising. They'll dress up in costume and perform tricks such as singing songs or telling jokes in exchange for treats. When Irish and Scottish people immigrated to North America, they brought those traditions with them. The term trick or treat originated in the 1920s in the Canadian provinces of Saskatchewan and Alberta, and eventually made its way to the United States by the end of the decade. Here's a little bit more tidbits of information for you. Percentage of U.S. parents who admit to stealing Halloween candy from their kids, 60%. Are you guilty? Are you guilty? Look at yourselves with all that chocolate all over your mouth. Amount the average American planned to spend on Halloween items in 2023, $108. What? Weight in pounds of candy the average American eats in a year. 8 pounds of candy. A minute on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. I mean, look at my hips. If you could see my hips. Percentage of Americans who planned to hand out Halloween candy in 2023, 68%. Yeah. And here's a little bit more tidbits related to candy. The term fun size sparked a legal battle. Mini candy bars, known as fun size bars, are a mainstay of Halloween. But in the 1970s, they brought candy companies to legal fisticuffs. Back in the 1930s, the Curtis Candy Company, which made Baby Ruth and Butterfinger bars at the time, started making tiny candies, and Mars, the company behind Twix, Snickers, M&Ms, and many others, followed suit in 1961 with its own junior-sized line. In 1968, Mars slightly increased the size of its smallest treats and changed the name to Fun Size. But when Curtis tried to do the same in 1971, Mars hit the company with a lawsuit. A judge ruled that Mars couldn't trademark Fun because another candy company already had. So Mars tracked down that company, bought the trademark, and sued Curtis again. In the end, Mars held the trademark to Fun Size until 1998, even though other candy companies have used the term. Mars never won the lawsuit. However, the court determined that Fun Size was a description of the product rather than a part of the Mars brand. How about that? A little bit for your trick-or-treating and your Halloween night, your Halloween festivities. Hope you're having a good time. Don't eat too much candy. All right, a little bit candy. Moderation, right? And if you're diabetic, hey, consult the doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm going to say that right now. I'm not a doctor. It's your old pal, KeysDAN, saying that's it for this edition of What Makes You Smarter. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you're doing for Halloween and the season. And does your season begin right after the 4th of July, like some seasons do? I think, mine started pretty early. People were planning Halloween-type parties and costume parties at the beginning of October, and maybe even before that. All right, that's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Enjoy your Halloween.